Here I've got video if you
Ready to
hold
go
it,
just like
landscape.
this?
Yeah.
And, okay.
And if you want to stand over there-ish to get us both in frame, that would be good.
In a good way, you got it. I
All
take
right.
direction pretty well.
Cool, so this is
All
off
right,
the
and
cuff.
so let's see,
It should be recording.
oh, I don't, okay, yeah, go ahead.
Okay. So, Dennis, really glad to meet you here today. Thanks for coming.
Well, nice to see you.
Yeah. I wasn't prepared to meet you here today, but I did look into the modem a lot. I recorded a 300 baud modem sound for the plinth out there with the Smartmodem on it. So I wasn't around then. I'm 31 years old, but
Okay.
I've done some research on what you created back then with Dale.
Right.
I wanted to know, how much did you do on that modem? How much did Dale do? What were your contributions to making that first smart modem?
Well, if you think about it in terms of function, Dell was the design engineer and I was more like the product manager.
Mm-hmm.
So I had worked at National Data and knew the details about how modems were supposed to work with, like the request to send, clear to send, and those type of signals. And
right.
All those technical details. Dell had been studying microprocessors for a while and really liked the Z8 microprocessor. And so we had for several months, we had a running discussion, so to speak, about why can't you use a cheaper microprocessor? And he thought that the Z8 would end up eventually being more expensive as a microprocessor, but less expensive for the total product. And he was right. And then part of the issue was how much of it, how could we eliminate all of the setup that someone has to do when you install it?
Right.
And so what has to be a dip switch on the smart modem, the original one we called smart modem, eventually renamed it smart modem 300. And so the dip switch had to do with things that are installation oriented, and once you've installed it, they don't change. Everything else could be controlled by the Hayes standard AT command set. And so I came up with the AT, and Dale came up with the patent on the escape sequence with guard time.
Right.
And part of what people don't necessarily realize is before there was plug and play, there was Autobot. And what Autobot did was it actually parsed the first two characters of any string you sent to the modem as a command, which would have started with an A and a T.
Mm-hmm.
And with the letter A and T, we could determine the bit rate, the character format, whether it was 7 or 8 data bits, whether it had parity or not, and whether it was odd or even parity. And so we could always answer back in the correct character format. So you didn't have to, if you were installing the modem, you didn't have to worry about setting those parameters because they were automatically measured every time you used it. And I did that part. Dale and I would go to lunch once a week, usually. Sometimes we might go more than once if there was something urgent. And playing the role of product manager, I was like, well, we need this feature and that feature. And the trade-off would be, well, that one's hard to do, how about this one? And so there was a constant negotiation about the details of what features were being implemented and how they would work, and what AT command made most sense for which functions and things of that nature. And so it was a collaborative project, but he did the design work, he put the circuit together, and he programmed the microprocessor. I was basically running the business selling the previous products, mm-hmm. which were the modem for the Apple II and the modem for the S100 bus. And getting the product made, shipping it to customers, getting customers signed up, all that kind of stuff. And And so when I would meet with him, we would focus on how's the modem going to work, how long is it going to take to finish it, when can we start shipping it. And then I think it was right around the beginning of June 1981, right before we shipped it, we met with a patent attorney and were able to file a patent before we shipped it. Of course, that was Dell's invention of the improved guard time with improved
like
escape sequence with guard time.
1 second of silence, and then 3 pluses, and then another second of silence would switch between command and data modes.
Yeah, well, it was a way to prevent the escape code from triggering when it randomly occurred in data. If you were just sending a constant stream of data,
Right.
because basically I asked the question, how do we keep the escape code from triggering an escape when we don't mean to? And that was Dell's solution. So he got the invention, I just asked the question.
What did you think about the AT command set kind of becoming a standard?
Oh, we worked on that deliberately.
It was supposed to be a standard
We worked
for
on,
other
we worked
companies
on,
to use?
We worked on that deliberately.
Yeah,
First of all, when we had the first smart modem,
yeah,
we took models and gave them to every software developer we could find that was writing communication software. So they would support the AT command set. Later on, during the patent trials, some of our competitors complained that we had done that, but that's fair game. That was developing the market. And because we did that, all the software worked with the AT command set, and so all of our competitors had to copy the AT command set to be compatible with all the software in the market.
yeah. I heard it was something like a 2% licensing fee got worked out eventually.
Yeah, eventually. That's another story. We can go into that one another day. that takes some time.
But that's why I was wondering, like, but you say it was really intended to be an open standard for others to implement.
Well, the AT command set itself could not be patented or protected, or at least that's what we were told by our patent attorney. So in that case, make it a standard and use it for your reputation. So if it's the Hayes standard AT command set, everybody in the market would claim to be Hayes compatible. So in essence, they were advertising for us. The only way they can compete with us was on price, because we had high quality, we had it available everywhere. The only opening to compete with us was to sell your stuff cheaper. And so we were very careful to manage the price to keep that from being too big of a gap.
How did you get your initial in? Because there were other modem companies. How did you advertise yourself and differentiate yourself other than the AT command set with your first modems?
Well, the first modem didn't have the first modem was for the S100 bus.
Yeah.
And basically it plugged into the S100 bus. It had a standard serial UART, what's a universal asynchronous receiver transmitter chip, and a 300 bit per second modem.
Yeah.
On a circuit board that you could connect to a data access arrangement formally at that time, but it also had an isolation transformer, so if you connected it directly to the phone line, it didn't hurt anything. So we met the requirements for the data access arrangement connection that the Bell system required. It was a Bell system at that time. It was before divestiture. And then shortly after that, the Carter phone case at the federal court resulted in the FCC being required to define a way for connecting to the phone line.
Right.
And that resulted in the RJ11 connector being defined by the FCC. And the definition of Part 68, which was the testing that needed to be done in order to register your device as FCC registered.
Okay.
Now, it turned out that the next product we did after the S100 bus was the modem for the Apple II.
Right.
Now, it was different in that it had a ROM on it, but it still plugged into the slot on the back of the Apple II.
Yes.
But because it had a ROM on it, you could type a couple of keys on the keyboard, activate that ROM, and it would emulate a terminal. Basically, it emulated an ASCII terminal over the phone line.
Yeah.
And so you could use it to dial up to a time-sharing service or something, or to your office computer if they had dialing capability.
Attention museum visitors, there was a cell phone left and found. If you are missing your cell phone, please come to the gift shop to claim it. Thank you so much. Again, if you have misplaced or lost your cell phone, please come to the gift shop when you have a moment to claim that. Thank you.
Okay. I don't, did we finish that, or?
I think that was okay.
Sorry about that.
That's all good. So basically, the question was, how do you differentiate yourself on your first products? Were they cheaper than the competition too, or?
No, the thing that was differentiated was, see, at that, you kind of have to understand the environment at that time. When we first started, there were just beginning to be some computer stores.
Yeah.
And these were usually an individual who had some knowledge about computers, who would open a computer store.
Right.
And if you walked into most of those computer stores, they might have a counter with a cash register and a couple of tables where they didn't have much to sell. And so there were all these companies making stuff to sell in those computer stores, and quite frankly, most of it was junk. So the computer store owners were looking for products that they could sell to their customers that wouldn't create a problem, that would do what they said they did and not get returned,
Come back to the store,
and
it's
not
not
get
working
broken,
right. Yeah.
and so forth. So the way we differentiated was we made a product that worked well, was reliable, didn't break, and if it did break, we provided you could send it back to us and we'd fix it. So the store manager very quickly learned that if he sold our product, it was safe. He wasn't taking a big risk. So that differentiated us from a lot of the companies at that time, and then we established a brand name. Now, along that time, basically we started advertising the product and selling it to end users.
Yeah.
Because at that time there was one computer store in Atlanta. And of course we went to them and asked them if they could sell it. But then it turned out we found 7 or 8 computer stores. By the time we introduced the Apple II modem, the Micro-Modem 2 for the Apple II, we had identified about 8 computer stores across the country.
Only 8.
Only 8.
Yeah.
All
In
across
the
the
country.
entire country.
Yeah.
Turns out one of them belonged to Steve Wozniak's brother in Silicon Valley.
Yeah.
And when we sent him the information about the modem for the Apple II, a few days later I get a call from Steve Jobs.
Yeah.
What are you doing making a modem for Apple?
Yeah.
And that's another story.
Yeah.
I can tell you that story another time.
That'd be really good to hear.
But that went well, and of course the demand for the Apple was high, and that caused the company to grow a good bit. But then bringing out the Smartmodem in 1981, and I think IBM introduced the PC. Our product came out in June. I think the PC came out in September, and of course we were ready to rock and roll, and our sales went up like a rocket.
Awesome. Yeah.
So,
that was lucky timing.
yeah, so I think that's pretty much of a preview.
Right time, right place, right product. And
Well,
it was
some
a
people
lot
said,
better.
well, you were just lucky, you were in the right place, and I was like, we were there on purpose.
Right. it really genuinely was a lot better than the competition. I had the misfortune of interfacing with a Commodore 1660 300 baud modem, and I thought it would be really great because it's Commodore's official peripheral. It's got to be supported quite well. It's got their name on it. And it's plugged into their computer, and it really was not a reliable product at all.
Well, see, people that were experienced designing digital circuits, which most of the computers were designed by someone who had experience with digital circuits,
Right.
did not have experience with the modulation, demodulation, the analog circuits for sending the signal over the phone line. And so that was something we knew from my experience at National Data Corporation and at AT&T Longmans. And so, and Dale had been an amateur radio operator,
Right.
and had learned analog circuit design at Georgia Southern Tech, I think it was called at the time. And I mean, he had a 2-year engineering technology degree from Southern Tech, and I had gone to Georgia Tech to study physics. And so we were able to figure out how to get the right kind of signals to go through the phone line, because we also knew how the phone line worked.
Yeah, there's 3 different disciplines there. The one you didn't mention so much was the user interface. You also have to have an idea about how people want to use it and design to that.
Well, see, when Dale and I were having the meetings once a week,
Yeah.
talking about the detail, if we were somewhere where we could draw pictures on the board, the first thing I would do is I'd draw a picture of the modem connected to a PC, the modem connected to a terminal, and the modem connected to a print. And we would make sure that it would work in all of those scenarios.
Voice over on. Messages. Tap back picker. Arm. App switcher. Messages. App. Views. Feature. Button. Page 2 of 2.
I didn't expect that to start to.
Yeah, something started off.
Voice over on.
Okay. But that caused us to keep coming back and saying, well, if we change this, will it mess up that one or will it mess up the other one?
Right.
Because we wanted you to be able to use it to have a remote printer that could just answer the phone and print something.
Well, that would be fantastic. Yeah.
And we wanted it to work with a terminal.
Well, it's like a fax machine, isn't it?
Like an ASCII terminal.
Yeah.
And then we wanted it to work with a PC.
Okay. Yeah.
Or at that time it was with a microcomputer. The IBM PC caused us to change what we called a microcomputer, and we started calling it a PC.
There you go.
Of course, then a Mac became a PC, and an Apple II became a PC.
Yeah.
So, anyway, but those were good times. Dale was really good to work with. He was very detail oriented. He could stay focused on something for hours and figure out difficult technical problems, and come back a day or 2 later with something that worked well.
That's great.
And I think that sort of gives an overview.
Yes. Thank you so much for your time. It was excellent.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.